Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Kuldeep here, and as a part of today's session, I will like to explain the QA best practices to create effective manual test cases. So as we know that as a QA, it is our responsibility to write good test cases and execute it properly so that we can deliver high quality product to our customers. So let's see what are the best practices and the guidelines we should follow while writing the test cases effectively. Okay, so let's start. So first let's understand that why to write test cases effectively. So basically effective test cases confirms the software meets the customer's requirement. It improves the user experience and the quality of software, which eventually brings more business to organization. And with a good quality product, there is less maintenance and the support cost involved. So as a QA, it is our responsibility that we should always try to improve the quality of the software, and we should follow certain best practices, and to create the test cases is definitely one of them, right? So let's see now what are the prerequisites before starting the test cases creation. So first, understand the business functional requirement and document thoroughly. Do not assume any requirement on your own, and in case if any requirement is misleading or not clear, then ask that questions to the product owner. Do not ask developer to clarify the requirement. So friends, I am using the product owner term here because I believe that in the current scenario, we all are following the agile practices, and in the agile, product owner is the person who is in the direct contact with the stakeholders, and he is collecting the requirement and converting those requirements into the user stories. So the product owner is the only guy we should approach to clear the requirement, and we should not ask any other person for the clarification of the requirement. Okay, so I hope it makes sense. Now let's see how we can draft the effective test cases. Okay, so let's see these guidelines one by one. So test cases should be simple and clear. Anyone should be able to understand it by reading. So as we know, it is not necessary. If you have created the test cases, then you are supposed to execute those. So it is quite possible that someone else will be executing those test cases. So it is our responsibility that we are creating our test cases in clear and precise way so that everyone can understand it and they can execute it. Okay. Moving to the next point, test cases should be accurate. Test what is it intended to test and should be traceable to requirements. So as we are getting the requirement in form of user story, so we should stick to the requirement as defined in the user story only, right? Test cases should be independent so that it can be executed in any order, okay, without depending on any other test cases. So this point is very important from the automation point of view. Moving to the next point, the generic test cases should be collected and combined in a test suite to minimize the effort of writing the standard common test cases every time. So if there are certain test steps that are repeated again and again, so you can combine them into the test suite and provide the reference of those while creating the new test cases. Okay. Priority should be assigned to each test case. Priority depends on the importance of feature and component. So it is a good practice to define the priority of each and every test case, so that in case if someone asks you to execute the priority test case, then in that case you should easily able to figure it out what are your priority test cases and execute in the timely manner. Okay. Include the negative failover test cases for each functionality. So friends, when you are creating the test cases, you should not just test the positive flow. You should look for the negative as well as the failover test cases as well, right? Attach the screenshots embedded in the Word file along with the test cases if required. Example in case of complex navigation in application. So sometimes there are certain test cases where we need to navigate onto the various screens. So in that case, you can take the screenshot of those navigation and can attach those into the Word file and attach in the test cases, so that the person who is going to execute those test cases, they can easily understand the flow of your test case. Okay, let's move to the next point, that is the assumptions and precondition. So basically we should mention assumptions and precondition if it is required for any test case, so that the person who is executing those test cases should follow those. Okay, there can be various things like if there is any dependency on the test environment, then you should clearly mention in the test cases, or if any kind of a special setting or configuration is required to be done before the test cases execution, then you should clearly point it out in the test cases. Okay, now let's talk about the input test data. Okay, this is an important aspect of the test cases creation, because when you are executing the test cases, then you need to provide certain kind of the test data. So we should clearly mention what kind of the test data is required in our test cases. Okay, and as we know, like it is not practical to test with all test data, so we can follow certain test cases creation strategies like the boundary value analysis and the equivalence partitioning to define our test data in the very precise way, so that can be used while the test cases execution. Okay, let's move to the next point, that is the expected result. So for each test step there should be some expected result, and that needs to be validated while test cases execution. Okay, and then comes the actual result. So any deviation to the expected outcome should be recorded here. So like if your test steps are not matching with the expected result, then you need to mark them in various status. So basically there can be the multiple status. First is the past, which means your expected and actual results are matching when you are executing your test cases. So you can mark that particular test case as a past. Okay, failed. So when your actual result and the expected results are not matching, in that case you can mark that test case as failed. And for each failed test case, you should report the defect, the defect management tool. It can be any tool like Jira. So you can basically log the defect in the Jira and just mention the Jira ID for that failed test cases. Okay, not applicable. So this category comes when, if let's say like if there has been any changes in the requirement or this feature is no longer valid, so you can mark that particular test case as not applicable as well. Okay, and in the last we can mention some comments, like if there are any kind of note you want to provide while the test cases execution, then you can provide the detail in the comment sections. Okay, so friends, this is the test cases creation format. So if you're not using any kind of a standard test case management tool, then you can use this kind of format to write your test cases. So basically it covers all the items like prerequisites, test data, test steps, expected results, and actual results. Basically, once you are testing your application and following the test steps here, you can mention the actual results for each test steps, and then you can define the overall status of your test cases execution. And in case any specific information you want to mention, then you can put in the comment section. Okay, so friends, that's it for today's session. I hope it is helpful to you for writing the effective test cases. In case if you have any comments, then please let me know, and let me know like what kind of standard practices you are following while creating the test cases in your organization. Okay, so thank you for watching my videos. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.